Hey,
Hello, I can't tell if that's Junie or Olivia.
it's June. She wanted to sit and say hi to everyone.
I'm so glad you did, June. How's your Dhamma practice going?
Good.
That's great. I love to hear it. We got a great class today. So, this class is on jhana meditation. We started this study with a look at the meaning of becoming and how the Dhamma is meant to be practiced within life as life unfolds. We are in this moment, we're either becoming further ignorant or by incorporating the Eightfold Path, we can incline our minds toward becoming awakened. And that's the only choice we ever have as human beings. And it's always in this moment. The next week, we looked at what the Buddha awakened to, dependent origination, which states that it is ignorance of Four Noble Truths which lead to all manner of greed, aversion, and ongoing deluded thinking, in a word, dukkha, or ongoing stress. Then last class we looked at two classes ago we looked at the Four Noble Truths, the overall structure of the Buddha's Dhamma, and then we looked at the Eightfold Path, which is the framework for developing the Buddha's developing awakening as the Buddha did. These two poems are on jhana meditation. As we know, as jhana practitioners, we know it as a very simple and direct and pure meditation practice. Jhana meditation is the eighth factor of the Eightfold Path, and it incorporates all of the other factors of right view that are all aspects of the Eightfold Path. In other words, right view is obviously part of right view, but the initial engagement with jhana meditation, with the understanding that this is jhana meditation, that this is the only meditation the Buddha ever taught, and that we're practicing it as the eighth factor of the Eightfold Path, is an aspect of right view, isn't it? It is. We don't need to talk about that, but that right view inclines us towards authentic Dhamma practice. Jhana meditation also incorporates all the other factors of the Eightfold Path: right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood. It is certainly a direct expression of right effort, and it is an aspect of right meditation, and it is right mindfulness, and it is right meditation. So, what I'm laying out here is that the Eightfold Path is um, is a complete symbiotic expression of the Buddha's Dhamma, meaning that it takes all eight factors, but it cannot tolerate seven and it cannot tolerate nine. The reason why I'm saying that is you might like jhana meditation, but you really like the visualization that so and so teaches you. So let's do a little bit of that too, along with our jhana meditation, where you've just developed a ninefold path, and one aspect of that path is a distracting aspect, and it will not work within Dhamma practice. So that's the point of that introduction. Now, from that rather wordy and lengthy introduction, these two poems from the Therigatha and a Therigatha, one from a monk and one from a nun, are from a book called the Therigatha and a Therigatha. The Therigatha, Theragatha, are preserves 264 poems of awakened monks. The Therigatha, Theri, preserves 74 poems of awakened nuns. It's a wonderful book in the Khuddaka Nikaya, the fifth book of the Sutta Pitaka. Um, and just a little bit of clarity, the fifth book of the Sutta Pitaka is a book that includes the Dhammapada, the Ivutaka. These are all smaller collections of suttas that are difficult to classify otherwise. So they put them in this book called the Khuddaka Nikaya, and then separated that into smaller books. This, for instance, called Therigatha or Therigatha. So the first poem I'm going to read is from the monk Sumangala. And the second, which is so interesting to me, is from his mother, who took to the Dhamma. There's a backstory to that that's not included here. She took to the Dhamma because of her son's experience, and she also awakened. There's just so much in just that. The ongoing information of all these people that awaken simply by listening to the Buddha and practicing it, which is something else that has been lost over time. Most of modern Buddhism is taught in such a defeatist and negative way that awakening is really not possible, but let's go ahead and do this anyway. Or it's presented that the path takes endless eons, but go ahead and do it. That always sounded like, I went ahead and did it and I followed that nonsense. but it always seems so self-defeating, and this gnawing, why am I doing this if there's no possible way of reaching the end? But because of my associations and clinging to those associations, associating with very wonderful people that were just as deluded as I was. So I kept going in a path that I knew wasn't going to bring fruition till I came across this. And notice how simple and direct this is. From Sumangala. Freedom, freedom, I am completely free. Free from crooked things. And he defines those, what they are. Sickles, shovels, and plows. So he's talking about he's free from the drudgery of simply living a human life and having to maintain his level of ignorance. And then he found jhana meditation in the Eightfold Path and found freedom, found liberation. Even if they were right here, meaning the tools, even if they were right here, I would still be free of them, meaning he's free of clinging or any attachment to any sensory indulgence. That's what the tools are representing. Affirming to himself, Sumangala concludes by saying, "Do jhana, Sumangala, do jhana." That's the end of his poem. He's reminding himself and teaching us all now, 2,600 years later, if you want to put down the burden of self, if you want to stop carrying around these heavy tools that we need to maintain ignorance of self, do jhana. Do jhana, everyone, do jhana. Now listen to the words of his mother in the same way, if I can find it. Sumangala's mother from the Theragatha 2.3, which simply, it just means it's the third poem in there. Freedom, freedom, I am completely free. I love this. Free from my pestle, or pestle, I'm not quite sure how to say it, P-E-S-T-L-E, for grinding stuff. Free from my pestle, free from my shameless husband, and his sunshade making, meaning he's a lazy person. I won't say lazy SOB, but we don't say SOB in the Dhamma, do we? And his sunshade making, free from my moldy old pot with its water snake smell. Passion, aversion, delusion, I cut them off with a single chop. I have come to the root of a tree, and I do jhana. What bliss. That's the teachings for today, and I'm not going to comment too much because I don't think it needs it. We're all practicing this wonderfully simple and direct meditation method that, as part of the Eightfold Path, brings us the same liberation that Sumangala and his mom developed from authentic Dhamma practice. So that's my teaching for tonight, and I'm going to start with June. June, what do you think of this teaching? Did you find it informative?
Ask him what you asked me. Ask him what you asked me.
Wait,
Take your time.
what is jhana?
Oh, what a great question. Jhana means concentration. And so the reason why we do this thing, sit quietly, is to develop concentration. You know what concentration is?
Yeah.
Good. It means the ability to think of one thing without having to think of other things. And so while you were meditating, you were thinking about your breath. Is that right? That's the tool. Your breath is a tool for deepening concentration. So every time you do this, June, and you can do this anytime. It doesn't have to be just on Tuesday nights at 7:15 with your dad. Anytime you feel like meditating, you can just close your eyes and be mindful of your breath. Just think about what it feels like to breathe, and you're doing jhana meditation. What a great question. So I look forward to seeing you at our next class so I can ask you how you're doing with it, okay? Thanks, June. Thanks for being part of our Sangha. What do you say, Matt?
Hey guys, hey everybody. I really like this. I like the really short suttas for some reason. I don't know.
What? I do too.
They're always really clear, and they always have these little interesting windows. And I thought something that was interesting to me, and you picked up on it too, John, not surprisingly. Free, I'm completely free from three crooked things: sickles, shovels, and plows. And I was thinking of this as the tools of my own bondage.
Yes.
And or really how I use subtle strategies to remain ignorant.
Yep.
And this to me goes right, those subtle strategies of resistance to what's occurring, to remain ignorant. That really goes, it could segue right into the Bhava Sutta in using those metaphors of farming tools, in looking at karma is the field, kama is the field, consciousness the seed, and craving is the moisture. So if I continually use these subtle forms of subtle strategies to remain ignorant, those subtle strategies are a form of craving, and craving things for things to be different, or being able to manipulate things in a way that I would like it to be. So I thought that was, I guess the Indus Valley civilization did a lot of farming.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. It's such a perfect metaphor for ignorance and the results of ignorance, because that's really what it is. People that didn't understand the context like we do might think, well, the Buddha's saying that we shouldn't do physical labor because it directly addresses that, but it has nothing to do with that. It could be, but it's not just that. It's simply the tools represent the burden of self and ignorance. So, thank you, Matt. Good to see you. Lorna, good evening. How are you?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. Well, when I read this afternoon, I had a look on your website and read it. I thought it was a neat, I haven't said these words for a while, so Anita, no, it's not Anita. Anatta, Anicca, and Dukkha, because there were three
that
it was using. So I was trying, in my mind, I was trying to hitch it together that way. And actually, that is totally wrong. Obviously, your explanation is although Matt covered that a little bit.
I wouldn't say you're wrong, Lorna. It's just a different way of applying the metaphor, but please go ahead.
Yeah, but, well, I was thinking of the physical objects of, the three. So anyway, that's when I looked at it this afternoon, that's what I thought about. But it wasn't a sutta, or they weren't a sutta that particularly sparked my interest. It was like so out there that I couldn't sort of wrap my head around it, and it didn't sort of interest me, if you know what I mean.
I do.
So anyway, I'm glad that him and his mum awakened, and it was useful to them anyway. So
yeah. Thank you, Lorna. Yeah, it's certainly not the most information heavy sutta, isn't it? It really is just that one thing. It's an encouragement towards jhana practice by people that actually have used it, and that's the value in it. So I'm glad you joined us tonight. Who's that down there? Josh, how are you?
Good, John. Thank you for the sutta, and I'm just going to listen tonight.
Glad you joined us. Oh, Josh, you snuck up there. Brett, how are you?
Good. Thank you for the sutta. I enjoyed both poems, and just reminds me to come back to my breath and let the thoughts and emotions let them fade away, and that's what I got to keep on doing. So
yeah, that's it. Thank you, Brett.
Thank you.
Trevor, how are you?
Hi there. Good to see everyone. Good to be here. Thanks, John, for the teaching tonight. Yeah, just always love hearing people talk about the freedom that comes from jhana practice and the Eightfold Path. So yeah, very inspiring. And yeah, I would just say I'm really enjoying this structured study that you put together. I love that we're digging into different parts of the Pali Canon with your guidance. So thanks for how you've put this all together and arranged it for us.
Yeah. Thank you, Trevor. Yeah, it really is. It's an interesting study for me too, because it just kind of came together, kind of off the cuff. But it's something Lorna said too about seeing the three tools as the three marks. It really has it's some great insight there, and you could certainly see it that way, because seeing that as simply ignorance or as a three marks is kind of the same thing too, because the Dhamma resolves within these three marks of existence. So very good thinking, Lorna. Good to see you, Trevor. Tim, how are you tonight?
Good, John. How are you?
Good. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, I'm not they were lovely poems, but I'm not a big, poem fan, poetry fan. With this, it's almost as if it was like, like when you listen to music, the meaning is up to the person listening to it or reading it. So we could come up with, 15 different metaphors and ideas of what they're talking about, all of which are right. So, but it does bring the point home about the freedom that's gained through jhana meditation.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Tim. And that is the point of it. We don't need to find anything hidden here either, do we? It's obvious. Thanks, Tim. Tom, how are you?
I'm good. That was me, right, Tom?
That's you.
Yeah. Was it Tom or
I think
Tim?
it's you.
Tom.
It looks like you.
Okay. Okay, cool. Again, I'll be, I guess, quite brief, but I guess the remembrance that that sort of ancient wisdom is just as relevant today, right? It really doesn't change whether we're what decade or era we're living in. We're still faced with the same sort of distractions, which pull us away from that freedom that the poem is talking about. And I guess I was just thinking about it and then reflecting on my life in lockdown here. And obviously there's been a lot of tough stuff that's come up as a result of this, the lockdowns and everything that's going on. But I've also noticed a kind of a simplification of life, which has happened as a result. And I wonder if that's kind of helped me. I've done a little bit less actual meditate, like time on the cushion, than I normally would do actually over the last few weeks. And yet I still feel quite kind of balanced. And I wonder if that is in part a result of there just being less, the three distractions. You're just exposed to them a lot less. Like life is simplified a little bit, maybe that is an opportunity to sort of come back to simplicity, and and I guess the freedom comes out of that. Focusing on what's most important and being less swayed constantly by everything that society sort of throws at you. That's all. But I appreciate the teaching. I'm also not a massive poetry fan, so it's not something that sort of blows me away. But it's just a reminder, I guess, of that the simplicity of the practice.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and it's not the point of reading the Theragatha is not to have a poetry reading tonight. I don't care at all about that. The point is, because of the structure, you can present a very, very concise but rather thorough Dhamma practice, and because of the structure of poetry. Being a poem doesn't really have any meaning to the Dhamma or to me. And as you describe that, Tom, you are describing developing Dhamma practice, that you notice it. Noticing that developing simplicity within our own minds is important, but also noticing it as we simply live in a much more peaceful way on the planet, within ourselves, within our own life. It's just that way, and that's the result of Dhamma practice. So it's good for you, and thanks for sharing that with us tonight. Michael, how are you? Hello, Michael.
Hi, John. I'm sorry.
Hey. Here you are.
I was muted there.
How are you tonight?
Stronger if I was muted. Joking. I actually kind of like what Lorna said also. I kind of looked at those sickle, shovels, and plows as, either the three marks of existence or the defilements, passion, aversion, and delusion.
Yeah.
So I guess that would can be interpreted as such. But a major question I have right now is I'm trying to put up a fence outside, and I'm using a lot of the similar tools to this. And if I give these tools up and put them down, how am I going to put that fence up?
I'm not following you. Ask the question again. I think I must have missed it.
These are all, if I have to explain this, then we're losing the whole point.
I'm sorry.
I'm just saying, like, I was just making a bad joke about, like, having to put down all these hand tools that are obviously, then I won't be able to get my my much-needed shed to keep my dog in the yard. And so only a joke, though, only a joke. Let me move on to things more serious here, okay?
Okay.
Obviously, I've lost the room. All right, this is on a more serious note. This is what I have written down. So what is the path to such a, to this liberation, obviously, where we feel this freedom, liberation? Obviously, it's something that we're all trying to practice. So I just wrote this down quickly. It's not overly deep or whatever, but it's kind of thoughtful, I guess. And I'm thinking, like, we have to recognize any and all things that occur in the present moment and be mindful of intention, and realize that distractions can cause a peaceful mind to experience unrest and stress. Being mindful of this, let our intentions and the words and actions born of them be framed by the Eightfold Path. Such an existence requires great concentration, because it's hard. It's not a simple process. We have to be, concentration has to be developed through jhana, and it has to be carried out into our everyday life and every moment of everyday life. And I'll finish by saying, and always remember to be kind to oneself and show compassion for all those who still suffer from not knowing right view and the path to the cessation of stress and suffering. That's it.
Well said, my friend. Julia, how are you?
Very good, John. Thank you. I actually enjoyed the poems because, well, I'm an English teacher, so this is right up my alley. I actually wrote something about the symbolism in it because I actually saw that there's a lot of symbolism that actually refers right back to the Dhamma. They're all universal symbols that can be like understood by mankind, and you can see it across many religions and spiritual teachings. The sickle represents the link to the natural world and the cycles of life, death, and regeneration. So Sumangala has broken the cycle and is free and has become the unborn. The shovel is used to prepare your path towards inner knowledge. The plow has to do with reaping a harvest, and Sumangala no longer has to reap a harvest of karma, of becoming. He's totally free. And the key that he makes very clear, and he repeats it twice, is right concentration in jhana. So that is the key to our awakening. And Sumangala's mother does the same thing. She shows us more symbols of toils of life that she's lifted, and that she brings us back to the Bodhi tree, where the Buddha himself has become an awakened being. And this is where she repeats the same thing: do jhana, do jhana. It's almost as they're making a plea to tell us, do jhana, do jhana. And personally, myself, in my own life, I actually look forward my entire day. It's true. All day long, you toil, you do things, and what peace it brings to do jhana. It's such a welcoming thing. It's something I always look forward to.
Yeah.
And so that's it. That's my piece on the symbolisms. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Julius. That's beautiful. Yeah, it is. They're tiny little poems, but they carry the entire wisdom of the Buddha in these little poems, don't they?
Yes, they do.
That's what we need to do. Ram, how are you tonight?
I'm good. Yeah, it's interesting to. I didn't quite like the poems all that much, the ones we've covered in the past, and these ones too. And just today, I published my first poem in about 60.
You did.
And
it's on the website, folks.
I realized that it's actually a beautiful form to just express a couple of little nuggets of understanding.
Yeah. Yeah, they do. These again, they're not meant to be complete Dhamma teachings, but they're so inspiring. And then when you think about who they are, these are awakened human beings who are telling us the most important aspect of their Dhamma practice: do jhana, do jhana. They're people that deserve to be taken seriously.
They were both people coming from a very simple background. They both came from a very simple background.
Yeah, well, if they were part of the original Sangha, it was about as simple as it gets, isn't it?
Yeah.
But again, they're great examples of us in that way, like Tom was saying too. It's just as our minds become simpler within, our lives become simpler without. It's just the nature, Another way of saying that is if we are living very complicated lives, it's because we have very complicated thinking. It can't be any other way, It's the way it goes. Thanks, Ram. Jane, how are you?
Well, I'm grateful for the Dhamma and the Sangha. I rather enjoyed the poems for their brevity and simplicity. I like poems in general. I especially like the visit from our youngest Sangha member.
Me too.
My night, so tell her thank you.
Yeah, tell her thank you. Thank you all. Yeah, it's just that, they're these little snippets from the Theragatha. We're going to go through the Dhammapada later on this year. They're just that. They're very simple and concise, but I think very useful practices. Like tonight, just every now and then, it's a good idea to be reminded of the simplicity of the Dhamma, and these two little poems do just that, don't they? So, notice that these two teachers could have said anything, and they didn't get into much else except this one thing. Anybody else have any questions or comments? All right, we'll finish with Metta as we always do. Give me a moment to bring it up. There it is. All right, so find your relaxed meditative posture. Close your eyes, close your mouths, and just take a moment to become mindful of your in-breath and your out-breath. And these are the Buddha's words on Metta from the Karaniya Metta Sutta. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud or demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove. Wishing, in gladness and in safety, may all beings be at ease. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short, or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all beings be at ease. Let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another. Even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings. Radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outwards and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will. Whether standing or walking, seated or lying down, free from drowsiness, one should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding. By not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into this world. Thank you all for a wonderful class tonight. Peace. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording, but keep the room open.